Yoast is an incredibly popular plugin with millions of installs, but what I found is that most people don't know how to configure the settings. Now, since version 7, they've done a great job of making things easier, and they've tried to simplify a lot of the settings, but if you've been using Yoast for a while, it may even be more confusing now that things have moved around. So in this video, I want to cover all of the most important settings in Yoast and my suggestions on how to configure those. So let's go ahead and dig right in. So I have a blank, or not a blank WordPress install, but a WordPress install that's just meant for testing, and I don't even have Yoast installed yet. So we're going to actually start with the very beginning step here of setting up Yoast, and we're just going to go to plugins, we'll go to search, and we'll type in Yoast, and then this should be the first result. We're going to click install now. It shouldn't take very long. And then we're going to click activate. Okay, so Yoast is activated now. You'll see it down here. You'll also see the notification bar up here. It gives me 2 notifications. Now, one of my biggest complaints about Yoast is that sometimes these notifications are a bit annoying, and they will take advantage of this notification bar for things like telling you to support them or upgrade or things like that aren't really Yoast. They're not really SEO issues. And so I feel like if you're going to have notifications that notify people of SEO issues, that you probably shouldn't also use that to tell people to go leave your plugin a review, but that's just a personal issue. Just know that sometimes these notifications are not important, but it can't hurt to check and see and clear your notifications. All right, so we'll start here. You can access Yoast. You can click up here in the top menu bar, or you can use the left bar inside of WordPress. And we're going to just start with the general page. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and dismiss that. That was from WP Rocket. It had nothing to do with Yoast. Okay, so we are going to start on general in the dashboard, and we see you have one problem. You have the default WordPress tagline. Even an empty one is probably better. You can fix this in the customizer. All right, so there's 2 places we can go to fix this tagline. This will be important, and I'll bring this up again later. But you can go to the customizer, you click this link here, or you can go into settings, and it should be in general or reading. I can't remember off the top of my head. Let's just go to the customizer and make this change. Okay, so we're going to open up the customizer, and it should be in general options. Nope, it's not there. Okay, so this theme identifies the WordPress things here. So we have the site title and the tagline. So this is under site identity. We're going to change the site title to Kindling Demo, and we'll make this something like that. So my suggestion on your site title and tagline is that your title should likely be your company name, and your tagline should likely be the main keyword phrase that you're targeting. So if I'm a photographer and I am a wedding photographer in Columbia, South Carolina, I might say my business name, let's say Ablaze Photography, and then my tagline might be wedding photographer in Columbia, South Carolina. Something really simple like that. Don't try to stuff keywords in here. Don't try to get a whole bunch of keywords into both of these. Use your business name as the site title, because that's the title of the site. It's about your business. Use the tagline to have a simple keyword description, okay, or describe what your business is. Okay, so let's just go ahead and hit publish on that. And we will go back over here to Yoast. We'll refresh this page to see if that error went away on its own. There we go. All right, notifications. Now it says, don't miss your crawl errors, connect with Google Search Console here. Now I'm going to go ahead and do this as well. You don't have to do this, by the way, but once I hit get authorization code, this is going to pop up. I'm going to pull this over off of the screen so that I'm not giving away sensitive information here, but it's just going to tell you Yoast wants to access your Google account, and you have to click allow, and then it's going to give you a code. All right, and so I'm just going to take that code. It's on my other screen, but it's just in a little pop-up window. We're going to paste that in and hit authenticate. All right, and actually I'm going to take this off the screen as well for just a second. And I'm going to pick the profile that I want to use. Hang on just a second here. We're going to use the Fuel Your Photos site. I'm just going to click Save Profile. And I'm going to bring this back over here. Now, technically this should be the URL that corresponds with the URL of the site that you're on. And I'm not even sure if this is going to give me issues because it's not the same URL, but I just wanted to show you that all you have to do is hit that get authentication code. You will paste the code and then you will tell it which profile you want to use. You can always come back and change that here. All right, so we'll just see here if we have any notifications. Now it's going to give you crawl errors from desktop, smartphone, feature phone, and then you have settings, which is how to re-verify if you want. So this could be helpful depending on your situation. You can create redirects. Let me see if this takes you. Yeah, it's a premium feature. So you could use another plugin here to create these redirects. But this would tell you that you have some 404s, and this might be a good thing to check to see if they need to be redirected. Just a general note here, you don't always need to redirect something that's a 404. If it's a 404 because it doesn't exist anymore, you don't want it to exist, then just leave it alone. Or you could potentially use a plugin to set it to a 410 response to tell Google that it is permanently missing. But you could also just leave it as a 404. Eventually, they'll basically drop it and they won't worry about it anymore. But if it's something that, maybe I had blog post ideas for photographers, that was a page that I actually changed to something else and I want to redirect it to the new page, then I would want to set up a redirect. Now, that's what you're going to get here in the free version of Yoast for setting up Search Console. You're just going to pull in a list of errors, crawl errors, and it will give you the option to view the page or create a redirect. It's just a nice place to be able to see these errors. All right, so let's go ahead and head back over to General. We've got these things cleared now. We're not going to use the configuration wizard. Actually, you know what? Since this is a getting started with Yoast video, let's just go through the configuration wizard. All right, configure it or let us set it up for you. This is a service. You don't want to do that. We're just going to configure. We want to make sure that it's indexed. Now that's a very important step. If you choose don't index, this is going to it's going to set a setting in WordPress so that Google cannot crawl your site. And if you don't go back and change that, that's going to be a major problem when you're ready to be indexed. So you can go back and change it, but just know that if you don't know how to do that, you should always choose option A. My site is live and ready to be indexed. What does the site blah 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 represent? Now this is just a demo URL that I'm using, but is it a blog, an online shop, whatever? I'm making this represent a photography website. So we're going to say a small offline business. Is it a person or a company? I'm going to say a company, and we're just going to call it, well, I already named it Kindling Demo. We'll just keep that consistent here. Provide an image of the company logo. You know what? I think I'm gonna. We'll just choose an image. Okay, so see if I have one here. Kindling. There we go. Choose an image. All right, that's just your logo image. Social profiles. Now this is something that is going to make schema markup on your site. It's going to create some JSON LD schema markup that it uses the same as feature. So basically anything you put in here it needs to be something that you want Google to find and to maybe even include in your Google My Business little knowledge panel for your business. If someone searches for your brand and Google says other places you can find this business around the web, it may pull in these profiles. Okay, so I would say don't use anything here that you aren't using actively. I don't even know why they still have MySpace as an option on here. For my business, I would put in a Facebook page, an Instagram URL, and a Pinterest URL, and probably my YouTube URL. Okay, I'm not going to worry about Google+. Google is even phasing this out. If you aren't actively using Google+, they basically are deleting profiles. To me, that means they're on the road to shutting down Google+. It's not really intended for businesses at this point. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Definitely not MySpace, LinkedIn, potentially Twitter, only if you use it. Don't worry about filling these out because the blanks are here. Fill out the ones that you use actively. So let me go ahead and just put in something. See if I can pull up. I'm just going to put the Fuel Your Photos page for Facebook. And then let's do Instagram. I'm pulling it up on my other screen. Let's get my Instagram URL as well. And I'm not going to worry about YouTube or Pinterest right now, but those would be ones that I would also include here. Search engine visibility. Okay, so we're going to cover this a little bit more in a few minutes, but this is, should it show your posts, like your blog posts? Should it show your pages? And should it show my templates? Now, anything after posts and pages are going to be custom post types. And every theme may be a little bit different. You may have portfolio. You may have some very specific post type that's made for you. It's really hard to say exactly what you want to do here, but I'm going to cover this again in just a minute. I'm going to keep these two to yes and set this one to no for right now. Again, I'll cover that why in just a minute. Multiple authors. No, I don't have multiple authors. It's just me blogging here. It's going to delete, if you choose no, it's going to get rid of your author's archive, which will just prevent duplicate content issues. So if you don't have multiple people writing very distinctly different types of content, like maybe you have an intern or something and they have their own user on WordPress, and sure, it's a separate author, but you don't necessarily need them to be separated. Like someone's not going to go to your site and want to see things only written by your intern. So if it's not something where people would want to see something written by a specific author on your site, just set this to no. Search console, we've already got that set up. Title settings. Okay, so on this page, you can change the name of your site and choose which separator you'll use. So this pulled from where we set that in the customizer, the site title, okay, website name, and we're just going to keep that like that for right now. And then title separator. Now this doesn't really matter. This is just a cosmetic preference. However, I will tell you that some of these take up more pixel width than others. And so my recommendation is to either use the pipe or the small dash. Pipe will take up a little bit less pixel width than the dash, but don't use these double carets or the long dash unless you really just don't care about the fact that these take up extra space and may make it so that you can't use as many characters in your title. So I'm going to keep it on the pipe. Okay, newsletter. No, I don't want the newsletter. No, I don't want to buy stuff or learn anything. Success, you've done it. Okay, close. Perfect. Now that's a really good start. We've actually got a lot of things set up here with Yoast, but let's keep going and let's cover some of the places you would set these things if you didn't do the configuration, or if you've already run that and you want to just go back and check on things. Also, we're going to start here with the features. So we're in general, and then we switched from dashboard to features. And we have a bunch of things here that are all set to on by default, and we can turn them on or off. So let me just run down. Now these have a little question mark here, and it shows you what it is, and it gives you a link, but I'm just going to give you a very quick synopsis of what these things do. So SEO analysis, whenever you write a post or a page, Yoast is able to check through the content and tell you whether or not you've optimized for your chosen keyword for that page. So you'll give Yoast a keyword, and they will look through your content and they'll say, hey, is this optimized for SEO? And if the SEO analysis is turned off, it won't give you the traffic lights. It won't check for SEO. And some people may prefer that. In fact, I would probably prefer that in many cases, because often if we go by the SEO analysis, we're over-optimizing many pages. But we're going to leave it on. Now, readability analysis, I would recommend turning this off. I have found that the readability analysis on Yoast is just not that helpful. And for most people, it's better just to turn it off, not have to be worried about it. Cornerstone content, we're going to leave that on. It's just a way for us to personally mark Cornerstone content and be able to get to it quickly. The premium version of Yoast introduces a few extra features with Cornerstone content, but for now, we're just going to leave that on as a way for us to be able to mark that for ourselves. Text link counter, we're going to keep that on. It's an extra feature. We'll cover that here in a few minutes. XML sitemaps, we're going to keep that on. Now, if you're using another sitemap plugin like Google XML Sitemaps, you may want to turn this off. You don't want two different plugins creating sitemaps. Now, I personally love the Yoast sitemaps. In fact, it's one of my favorite features about Yoast. I like the way that they lay it out. It's easy for me to use for crawling. It's easy for Google to crawl. It's very organized. It's easy to check for errors. Whereas some of the other plugins, the computer can read them, the crawlers can read them just fine, but humans can't look at them. At least with the XML sitemaps on Yoast, you can still see them visually as well, which is really nice. So I would keep this on. Right integration, this is an indexation check that they have integrated. You can leave this on. I rarely even look at this, but this could be very helpful in telling you whether or not your site is indexable. If you have something set to no index, this could help find that it's not indexable. Admin bar menu, if you turn this off, it should, I'm not sure if it's actually this, it should be this admin bar it would turn it off. Maybe it's just when I save it, it would turn it off up here. So if you don't want that little light up here that when you have notifications, you can turn that off here. And then security, do you want to let your authors, which is a different role, have access to the advanced features, and maybe you want that turned. Now, on means that authors cannot access the advanced features. So an author who you're allowing to write a post is not able to do things like no index the page. And that's fine. Just leave it on. You can turn it off if you have someone who's working on your site whose role is set to author, who knows what they're doing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit save just because we changed that one thing. Webmaster Tools. Okay, so this is one of those things that I never use Yoast for this. If you have Google Analytics installed on your site, you can use Google Analytics to verify Search Console with the analytics code. You don't need to put it here. However, if that's something that you don't have, or you don't want to use that option, or it's not allowing you to use that option, you can get your Google Search Console verification code and paste it right here in the free version of Yoast, which is a really good way to get that up and running. Same thing with Baidu, Bing, Yandex. If you are outside of the US, you may be using, or maybe even inside the US with Bing, you may be using one of those. This is a good way to verify that quickly and easily without any other code added. But if you already have another place where you're adding code, you may want to keep it all in one place. You don't want to do this if you've already verified Search Console using a different method. Don't feel like just because there's a blank here, you have to fill it out. This is only a tool to use if you need to use it. All right, let's go ahead and move on to search appearance. Now, this is where most of the magic happens. Pretty much everything that's really important about Yoast is handled in these tabs on search appearance now since version 7. Now, we've already set the title separator in the setup, but if you wanted to change that or choose something different, or if you didn't go through the wizard, you can do that here. Same thing with the home and front page. Now, some themes, if you're using either you're using like a WordPress posts page as your home page, you would set your home page title and meta here potentially. There's some other themes that have reasons why you might need to set your home page and front page title and meta here. Now, you don't need to do that here. You can just go edit the page itself. Okay, so in this case, nothing shows up here for me. If it does, you can sometimes, if you're having a problem getting your home page title and meta description to update, you might want to come and check here in search appearance in general and see if you have a blank here to fill out. Knowledge graph. Okay, so we've already said that we're a company. We've already put in the company name, and we've already put in the company logo. All that's part of the schema markup. All right, so those are all pretty basic. Content types. Now, this is where it starts to get a little more advanced, okay? But don't be overwhelmed by this, and if you're ever in question, you can usually just kind of leave this alone. The default settings are pretty good on this. Posts and pages are pretty self-explanatory. You have posts and pages right here, okay? They're essentially the same thing to a search engine, but there are some differences inside of WordPress with taxonomies, meaning categories and tags, and nesting, like having a parent and child page. So there's some minor differences here, but you probably know how to use posts and pages based on your template or your theme. And this is basically saying, should we show these in search results? Now, if you click no on posts or pages, it's going to add a no index tag to all of your posts or all of your pages. So you rarely ever would want to switch these unless you have like a private blog that you don't want showing up in search results and you only want your pages, or vice versa. You could always do something like that. Now, there are some people that I know who may have switched platforms. Let's say that you had a WordPress site with, Profoto or Divi or something like that, and you switched to Show It. Well, maybe you had a bunch of pages in WordPress, and now you don't really want to delete them because you might need to come back and get something from them one day, but they're kind of messing with how things display and show it. You could potentially want to no index all of your WordPress pages. It's like a nuclear option. You shouldn't use this unless you really know what you're doing. The Yoast SEO meta box is whether or not you want to be able to edit your title, your meta description, your slug, and check for SEO and all that stuff on a page. So we'll just open up a page or post our page or anything. We'll open up a post here for just a second. And you can see if we scroll past the WordPress content area here, this is the Yoast meta box, okay? If you want to be able to use this for any particular post type, you need to have it switched to yes. Okay, so some are by default set to no, like maybe taxonomies. Maybe you don't want a Yoast meta box. Now these should still be set to yes by default, but we'll get to that in just a second. Let's go back here. Everything on here is fine. Now in this case, I already said for my templates, that's a Elementor custom post type. And I know that these are not something that I want to show up in a search result. These are pieces and parts of a page that I'm building. So I can easily say, never show these particular templates, post types, in search results. And you would do this for things like pro photo galleries, for example. You probably don't want your gallery pages showing up in search results as far as the actual post type, unless you're using that as the main gallery page in your navigation. Now, some people are. So this is it's one of those things, again, it's a little bit hard to tell you what to do, but depending on your setup. If you inserted a gallery into an actual page, you probably don't want the gallery post type to also show up in search, because this causes duplicate content. So if you know what you're doing, you can set this to no for custom post types that you don't want to show up. In many cases, custom post types do not need to get indexed, and so we'll set these to no. All right. Now, one thing to note is that I can go back and forth within these tabs in the search appearance settings without clicking save. And whenever I come back, I should be able to, like if I set this to no and come over here and set this to no, I can come back over here. This is still set to no. You can go through all of these tabs and change settings without having to click save every single time. It's a quick little tip for efficiency within making Yoast changes. All right, so we're going to go to media, and this by default is now set to yes, and we're going to keep it as yes. If you find that this is set to no, you probably want to set it to yes. Now, let me just give you a really quick rundown of what this does. If you have media on your site, so images, PDFs, anything that goes into the media library, then you probably don't want the individual attachment pages to be indexed in Google. Now, people may not even realize that WordPress creates an entire page for every image that you upload. So if I go to this, this is an image. Okay, so hang on. Mine is currently set to yes, and I haven't saved changes, so let's set it to no. And I think I actually copied the image URL. Let's go back to the media library. And we're going to click on View Attachment Page, okay? So the attachment page, notice that it has the date that I uploaded it, and then it looks like this. It's got the name of the file, but it is not .jpeg. This is a page on your site. It's a post type. And essentially, there are some setups. Maybe you're running a stock site, or maybe you have some kind of images for sale in a gallery. There's a lot of different reasons that you may actually want to use attachment pages, and every attachment page can be optimized for SEO. You could take every image and have a page dedicated to that specific image, where the title, the meta description, the content, the description of the image, a title of the image that's an H1. You could have paragraphs and paragraphs of description for every single image if you wanted to on an attachment page. Now, the truth is that 99.5% of people, maybe more, are never going to need to do that. And that's why Yoast has even made it a default setting for the attachment pages to get redirected to the image. Because the truth is, you don't want the image to get de-indexed. You don't want this image to not be able to show up in image search. You just don't want this attachment page to be showing up in search, right? So whenever I go back over here and I go to media and I set this to yes and I click save, If I try to refresh this, it's going to take me directly to the image. Okay, so Google can still see the image, it can crawl the image, it can index the image, but it can't index that attachment page, which is a poor quality result for most visitors. So this is exactly what you want to do. Now, this acts a little bit differently than in the old Yoast versions. You could handle how attached images and unattached images were indexed, and now it's just going to always redirect to the image. You used to be able to, if they were attached, you could redirect them to the parent page, so the post or the page that they were attached to. And attached and unattached, what this means is, if I go into the media library and I just add an image, it's not attached to any page. But if I go to a page or a post, and let's go to like this post, and I were to upload an image directly into this post, well, now it's associated with this post. It's attached to this post. You used to be able to set it so that the image could redirect to this post instead of the image itself, but I think that Yoast figured that Google's getting really smart about how to handle some of this stuff, and in most cases, it's better to just say, hey, this is an image, and you know what to do with images. Don't put them in organic results, just put it over in the image search. And Google's getting better about doing that. Now, you may still find situations where you would rather have these images these attachment pages directed to the post, and it's kind of just, you're kind of out of luck with Yoast in this case, and the solutions are not great. So typically you just kind of have to wait. Most of the time this comes up whenever you had something before that was like a site link, and now it's redirecting to the attachment page, but the attachment page is still showing up as a site link, and it can be a mess. But the point is, for right now, all you need to know is just set this to yes. Going into all these explanations because there are so many different variables and scenarios where people may want to do something different here. If you want to optimize every image on your site with a specific page, then you want to set this to no, and then you can have your Yoast meta box if you want it on every attachment page. Taxonomies. Now, taxonomies are things like categories and tags, and custom post types can also have their own taxonomy. So you may have a gallery tag or a gallery category. All right, so this may look different for you. You may have more than this, and you have to understand how these are being used and whether you want them to show up in search. All right, so by default, Yoast is going to have this set to yes for categories and tags, and no for format, for post formats, and that's totally fine. But what we want to know is, are you using categories and tags in a way that you would actually want that category or tag archive to show up in search? And the answer for most people is no, you're not. Now, categories, maybe you want to keep your categories, but you probably don't need your tags indexed. If you're like keyword stuffing tags and you go into Search Console and see that these are not actually bringing you any visits, then you might be better off no indexing tags. I'm saying this because it's really dependent on how you use categories and tags. I would say that the majority of people that I encounter use categories pretty much appropriately and could leave this set to yes, and most people use tags inappropriately and would be better off setting this to no. But there are a lot of people who have a few tags that need to be set to yes because they're actually getting them traffic, and then the rest should be set to no. So you could keep this to yes, and you could come up here to post and tags, and you could come in here to a specific tag, and we could go to edit, and we have this Yoast meta box, and we can go to the advanced options, and we could set allow search engines to show this tag, and we could say no. So if we want to no index specific tags, we can do that as well. All right. While we're talking about no indexing, let's finish this off. So our author archives, we have author archives can be enabled or disabled. We already set that in the tutorial, the little setup wizard. Again, if you have a single author site, just disable this. Date archives is kind of the same way. If you're not using the date archives, you can disable it, or you can just no index it. By default, it's going to be set to no index. Special pages, the search results page and the 404 page, you can set the title template here. We'll come back to that here in just a second. Breadcrumbs, this you're going to have to kind of dig into the knowledge base article on breadcrumb implementation. If you're not implementing breadcrumbs, or your theme doesn't have like a place to implement breadcrumbs, this may not work. If you enable this, you need to make sure that your theme supports it. I can't really get much more into that, but by default, I typically leave this disabled. It's really not important for sites that are not like news or shopping sites that don't really need breadcrumbs. But there's a lot of information out there about breadcrumbs. And then RSS, typically I'm not even going to mess with this because I just don't usually use the RSS function. If you're using RSS, you may, like if you're like feeding your RSS into Zapier to take your posts and put them onto Instagram or something like that. I don't think it even supports Instagram, but you know what I'm saying. Like if you want to make your blog posts go to Facebook and you want to adjust the template for the way that uses the content, like you could do that here. Again, it's such an advanced feature. Most people are never going to use it. Okay, so now we went through all that about indexation, but we still have to go back to this for the default titles. Now, this is one of those things that a lot of people have no idea how much flexibility there is here in these title templates. And it's a huge power of Yoast, and their default templates they're okay. They're pretty good. But they could be better in a lot of cases, and you can make them more custom, and you can set these templates. These meta descriptions are always blank by default, but you can set description templates. So let me show you this. There's Yoast WordPress SEO title meta template variables. If you just search for title template variables Yoast on Google, you should find this article. And this will show you a whole bunch of examples and how you could use these variables. Look at all these advanced variables that they have. In fact, it tells you that you can go to the help and go to the template. There we go. So here are all of the variables as well. And you can copy and paste these if you want. It explains what they are. But let me go back over here and show you, for example, the title template for a post is going to be the title of the post, the title of the page. So I guess this is the title of the page. I can't remember exactly how that works. Let's look here and see. Title is replaced with the title of the post or page. And then what does page do? Oh, okay. Yes. So in a paginated example, it could be like page 2 of 4 or something like that. In most cases, this is not even going to show up. It's just going to kind of be the regular page title. This won't even show because there won't be anything to show. A separator, which we set in that general settings, and then the site name, which we set in the WordPress settings in the customizer. Okay. So if we were to look at that, we're going to go to this post and we'll just view this post. And we can see the title of this post was larger image size test. All right, and we'll just use this open SEO stats. We'll look at the page info and we'll see larger image size test. Then it uses a pipe because that's what I set, and then kindling demo, which is the site name. All right, now what if we wanted to make it so that our post didn't just pull the first text on a page, but let's say we wanted it to pull the what do you call it? Excerpt. If we want to pull the excerpt from the page. All right, so then we'll go here and we'll say we want this to use the excerpt for the post meta description. And let's go ahead and save that. And let's go over here, and the excerpt might not even be turned on. Let's turn screen options, excerpt. Whoops. All right, and then we'll come down here to past the Yoast, and we have excerpt. This is a test. All right, and then we're going to update that. And now if we go back over here and we refresh this page, that's the right one. Okay, and then we look at the Open SEO stats. We should see that the meta description this is a test. All right, so it's using the excerpt from the page. Now the excerpt uses the excerpt or auto generation if no excerpt is found. And then the excerpt only, you'll see here, it says excerpt only uses with no auto generation. So it'll be blank if there's no excerpt found. That's just one example. The cool thing is you can use standard things here like Corey is cool and then the excerpt. And so on every single meta description, it would start with Corey is cool and then it would put the excerpt. So if we go back over here, we refresh this, we would see Corey is cool. This is a test. All right. So that's how these templates work. And you can leave the defaults for the titles, or you can set them to something else. Maybe you have a different format that you want to use. Maybe you never want these to use the site name because that just gets too long. You also wouldn't want a separator. You just wanted to always use the title of the post. This could save you some frustration in some cases, especially if you have a long site name. But if we go back over here, check this now, notice that's already gone, the pipe and the extra part. The title of this page is now just the post title. Now you can override this. You can always override the default here in the meta box. And so I think my computer is maybe having some problems with processing this recording. But you can override that here by hitting edit snippet, and this is going to, now I haven't refreshed yet. So if I refresh it, it should pull in the previous. All right, so yep, so it's got the new format. I'm sorry about that. There we go. And then I could overwrite this by doing that. And so if I click update, and I come over here and refresh this, then notice my title is now overwrite. All right, so that's how templates work. Hopefully that makes sense so far. You can do that on all kinds of things. This can be really helpful with something like a tag archive, where maybe you don't want it to just be like photography archives. Maybe you want it to have some specific thing that makes it a little bit more unique, or a meta description that's a little more unique. There's all kinds of cool things you can do here if you get creative, but do some reading and start to understand how these variables work and experiment with them a little bit, and you can really unlock some of the hidden power of Yoast. All right, we've already talked about Search Console and what it does. Let's go over here to social. This is the same thing we already set up in that little wizard, and then you can also go in here and enable Open Graph data. Now, the only time I would recommend disabling this is if you have Open Graph set by some other plugin. Sometimes you may be using an Open Graph plugin and you don't want it twice. Okay, so you could disable this if you're using another plugin for Open Graph data. Open Graph is just Facebook's own kind of schema markup. Basically, it tells Google, or it tells Facebook what to use whenever a link is shared on their network as the preview, as the title, as the description of the link. All right, and you can go in and set up Facebook app ID. You can have a default image URL. So like if it doesn't have a featured image and Facebook doesn't know what to use, you can set a image here that will be used as the default. Okay, you can also set the just set the featured image of the page, and it should pull that automatically. Now Twitter, same kind of thing. I'm not going to go into all the details of everything. Now Pinterest confirmation, you can verify your Pinterest account at your business account with this same kind of thing that we had before with the Google verification and the publisher page. Again, if you're using Google Plus actively, put the link to your Google Plus page and put the link back to your site and your About page, and that will kind of do a reciprocal verification there. Okay, let's go on to tools. There's just a couple of things here. You can import or export your Yoast settings, and once you get everything like you want it, you can export that file and you could import it on another site. So let's just say that you spend a lot of time going through those titles for all of your different post types, and you want to keep those formats for a new site, and you can just export your settings and then import it on the new site. File editor, now this lets you access your htaccess code and your robots.txt. Those are two things that most people don't realize you can do with Yoast. It's pretty cool. Don't edit these if you don't know what you're doing. One misedit in the htaccess file could completely crash your site. All right, so this is a place for doing manual redirects. It's a place for doing some other advanced things. Same with robots.txt. Really, you shouldn't need to edit that ever. And then one other really cool feature is the bulk editor. Now, I wish the bulk editor had the option to have more than 10 items at a time, but at least it's better than one at a time. You can edit the title or the description of multiple pages at the same time. You can choose between published or all. You can show different content types, and you can filter it down. So if I want to just show pages, I can filter this down, and it'll be just the titles of my pages or just the descriptions of my pages right here. It's pretty cool. You can just do that and then click Save All, and it saves a lot of time if you're updating everything at once, especially like if your blog posts have no meta descriptions and you want to go in and add descriptions to all of them really quickly. That would be a great place to do it. And then there is premium. I am not going to get into premium except for to say it is a very popular question. Should I use Yoast Premium? And I'm going to tell you that as an SEO expert, I'm kind of disappointed with Yoast Premium. I feel like a company like Yoast could have done so much better with a premium plugin. I would probably like to see them bundle some of these. I understand why they don't as a developer. You don't want to add unnecessary things, but it's just not that impressive. Like, there's just not much you can do extra with Yoast Premium that you can't do with the free version of Yoast. The redirect manager is really handy. If you are changing URLs of your posts very frequently, or if you have a bunch of stuff that you're getting ready to change or do a migration or something like that, the redirect manager might actually be worth the cost of the SEO Premium plugin just for migrations and people who change things a lot. If you're not going to change your page URLs ever, if you're not doing a migration, you probably don't need it. You could use some other plugin for redirections. Now, this one of the coolest parts about the redirection manager is that it auto detects URL changes. Now, I have seen recently that this does not always work exactly like you would expect. In fact, I had a site recently where I was editing the home page that, the URL is just the naked URL of the site. And I made a change to the title and meta description, and the premium thing popped up and said, hey, you made a change to this page's URL. And I'm like, no, I didn't. Nothing changed. I checked it. Everything was still normal. So it's, in my opinion, not always 100% accurate, but it could really be handy if you accidentally change URLs and don't realize that you're supposed to redirect those and that kind of stuff. The multiple focus keywords is silly, in my opinion. It's just, there's no reason for this. In fact, there's not even always a reason for single focus keywords. Again, sometimes I turn the SEO analysis off. Social previews, check what your Facebook or Twitter post will look like. Okay, maybe that's helpful, but you could just use the Facebook debugger and check it there. And then premium support. If you need support for setting this kind of thing up or figuring out what's going on with your Yoast, that would be a good reason to buy Yoast Premium. That should get us through all of the settings inside of Yoast. Now let's go ahead and go to one more thing here. We're just going to go to a page. We'll go to the home page, for example, front page. And we're going to look inside of this Yoast meta box and just see if there's anything else here that we need to cover as far as settings go. Now, by default, it's going to be on this little traffic light, the content optimization tab, but you also have a social tab where you can put a different title for Facebook here, and the image, you could put a specific image for this page for Facebook. This is really cool. It's setting open graph data per page. Most people don't even realize you can do this. Now, if you wanted to preview what it looks like over here in this box, just update the premium. But I mean, that's silly. Like, just go use the Facebook debugger and check it there. And then this advanced tab, you have, do you want to index or no index this page? They've renamed this, so you have to really pay attention. Before it was like no index, index, or default, and like you know exactly what you're getting. But now it's yes or no, so you have to read the question and make sure you understand. Allow search engines to show this page in search results. Yes. Yes is the default for index. No is for no index. Okay? And then meta robots, you could potentially set this to none or no image index or no archive, no snippet. This is really an advanced usage thing. You shouldn't ever need to use this. Should search engines follow links on this page? So this is, should you set all links to follow or no follow? Just usually leave this on yes. And then canonical URL. This actually comes in really handy in some situations. Let's say you are allowing someone to write a guest post on your blog and they already have a version of it somewhere. Well, you just want to add some content for your visitors because you're being nice and you feel like it's a good value for your audience, but you want to give all the SEO credit back to the person who wrote it, to their original article. Well, you could set the canonical URL to their article. Same kind of thing could be the case on your site. If you're optimizing like 50 different pages for the same keyword, you can set the canonical URL to the main page that you want to rank for that keyword, and Google will basically consider that as a redirect, but your visitors can still visit the page as they normally would. So do some more reading on canonical if you don't understand it. It's not something you're going to use very commonly, but that's where it is if you need to use it. And then while I'm making this video, this really long video, I will cover one more thing here about Yoast. And it's probably another one of the most common things that people ask me, and that is, what should I use as the focus keyword? This can probably be its own video. Again, there's things like cornerstone content. I remember earlier I mentioned this is not going to change anything for Google. Okay, this is just for your reference. And once you mark this, let's just do it really quick. I'm going to click update, and then I'm going to go back to pages, and now all of a sudden I'll have this little cornerstone content up here, and it's going to tell me, hey, these are the most important pages on your site. It's for your reference. Google doesn't see this at all. As far as what to use for the focus keyword, again, this is for your reference. Google does not see what you put in the focus keyword in Yoast. It doesn't matter what you put here. You could put demo as the focus keyword because I use the word demo here, and all you're doing is you're checking to see how much you've used this word, okay? Or this set of words or this phrase. So if you're optimizing and you want to make sure you get the keyword in your title and your H2 and the first paragraph and in the URL and like all this stuff, which isn't always necessary, if you want to check that, you just type in a focus keyword and it'll give you a traffic like. Now, if I were to change this to home, let's change it to so okay, it's not going to change anything. Well, maybe it does. Okay, let's look at that versus demo. Let's change this to dog. Okay, so it's not changing anything here. I may have to refresh it or something, but you could totally just change this. This is why you don't need Yoast Premium for multiple keywords, focus keywords. You can just change the focus keyword and check your lights. Whatever the final light is, like if this is red, that doesn't matter. If you have optimized your content and you've checked your focus keywords, it doesn't matter what the final light is. This does not impact your ranking. If you leave this blank, uncheck this, it doesn't matter. As long as you've gone through and used this tool to make sure that you're optimizing for the keywords that you want to optimize for, that's all that matters. Okay, so this has been a really long video about setting up Yoast. I would love to hear what other questions you have about setting up the Yoast plugin. If any big changes come out to Yoast, like this version 7 was a big change from previous versions, then maybe I'll make another video like this in the future. I would love to take any questions that you have into consideration. You can leave questions in the comments. I would also love for you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just hit the subscribe button down below. And again, you can always ask questions in the comments, but you could come over to the Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Fuel Your Photos. It's facebook.com/group/Fuel Your Photos. You can always join in the conversation there with any questions you have. I would love to answer them if I can. All right, hope you liked the video and see you next time.